Druid is one of the more complex classes in Diablo in my eyes, and if you don't get your build right early on, leveling can be an arduous, slow process. So today I wanted to bring you my Stormwolf build that will have you raining down lightning, clearing out huge packs of enemies including elites with ease through massive critical damage and huge crowd control abilities. The build has excellent spirit generation and insane healing even from very early on, so you don't have to waste time building up spirit or healing. So the first ability you want to unlock is your Storm Strike ability, which generates 14 spirit per use and has a 25% chance of lucky hit. Enhanced Storm Strike is going to give it a 15% chance to immobilize all enemies hit for 2.5 seconds, and then Fierce Storm Strike is going to make it a 50% chance to make enemies vulnerable, meaning you can deal more damage to them. You don't want to level this beyond rank 1 out of 5 as there's far more important skills to unlock and there's very little return gained from that skill point. Your core ability at the heart of this build is going to be Lightning Storm, which costs 15 spirit per use and has a 15% lucky hit chance. The longer you hold down this ability, the more lightning strikes it will summon at once, up to a maximum of 5. Enhanced Lightning Storm preserves the storm for up to 4 seconds after you finish using your ability, and then Primal Lightning Storm makes Lightning Storm have an 8% chance to immobilize enemies for 3 seconds. I see a lot of players making this mistake early on, and that's unlocking tons of offensive abilities, of which you won't be able to use them all on the battlefield because you have limited spirit resource. Instead, you want some abilities which are cooldown based instead rather than using up spirit. You do want to make Lightning Storm 5 out of 5, but don't do this too early on before unlocking your main abilities. Blood Howl is going to be the first defensive cooldown ability you want to unlock, which on cast gives you a massive 20% of your life back instantly. Honestly, this thing is going to save your ass so many times and conserves potions. Enhanced Blood Howl will reduce the cooldown of your Blood Howl by 1 second for each kill you get, which is absolutely massive for this build. Innate Blood Howl will make it that you not only generate health when you cast Blood Howl, but you also generate a good chunk of spirit now as well. So the rotation becomes simple. Use Blood Howl and Storm Strike to generate some spirit initially, then dump that spirit by holding down Lightning Storm and destroying enemies, which will reduce your Blood Howl cooldown timer thanks to Enhanced Blood Howl, and then you can repeat the process infinitely. The rest of our abilities are going to focus on enhancing this core gameplay loop by maximizing our critical strike chance and critical damage, so we destroy the battlefield even faster and get Blood Howl back even quicker. You want to get Poison Creeper early on. Passively this will poison enemies, but when you use it actively, it will summon these vines which immobilize surrounding enemies for 3 seconds, which will help you survive as you want some distance, but it also poisons them as well. Why this is so important is because Brutal Poison Creeper increases critical strike chance by a whopping 20% against enemies immobilized by Poison Creeper. You want 1 point in Neurotoxin so you can unlock Envenom, whereby poisoned enemies take a 30% additional critical strike damage, so now we have massively increased crit strike chance and damage against enemies immobilized by the creeper. Rabies is another ability which you want to incorporate, which spreads even more poison through enemies. Enhanced Rabies causes the poison to become stronger the longer it is applied, and Natural Rabies causes it to spread twice as fast amongst enemies. Again, because of Envenom, we're going to have increased critical strike damage against enemies affected by Rabies. Remember, all this critical strike chance and damage that we're stacking is going to kill enemies faster so you can get Blood Howl back quicker and carry on with your core gameplay loop and generate more spirit and health. At level 15, Druids unlock their class ability Spirit Boons by completing the Tur Dulra Stronghold and subsequent questline. You want to do this as soon as possible, and you want to hand in Spirit Boons which can drop randomly from enemies to all of the animals to unlock even more passive abilities. Once you unlock every single boon, you can double down on one animal and have 2 passives from them. The Eagle is going to be the choice here, so you can get Scythe Talons for 5% increased critical strike chance and Avian Wrath for 30% increased critical strike damage. If you haven't already got the memo, you can see we're stacking crit chance and damage so much in this build. For the other boons, I went with Gift of the Stag for 10 more spirit early on, but later you can switch this to Wariness for reduced damage from elites, Energize so your lucky hits have a chance to restore 10 spirit, and then finally Overload so lightning damage has a chance to cause further damage to surrounding enemies. In terms of your ultimate ability, you want Cataclysm, which is going to summon Twisters and lightning strikes which knock back enemies and deal a ton of damage for 10 seconds. It's going to be great to use this in densely populated situations, so often open with this ability. Prime Cataclysm is going to increase the duration of the ultimate, and then Supreme Cataclysm makes enemies hit by the lightning strike vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now, our key passive that you want to unlock as soon as possible is going to be Perfect Storm, which further increases our storm skill damage against enemies immobilized, slowed, or vulnerable. And if you haven't noticed already, literally all of our abilities apply one of these debuffs, so you're constantly going to have that 15% damage bonus. In terms of other passives, if you want even more healing, which I highly recommend when you're casting Lightning Storm, you want 1 point in Defiance so that you can unlock Circle of Life, which heals you for 3% each time you cast your core ability. You'll eventually want Defiance to 3 out of 3 as well, so you have more damage against elites. Other passives in this build I recommend include Elemental Exposure, which makes our storm skills have a chance to make enemies vulnerable, Charged Atmosphere, which summons lightning bolts periodically, and Bad Omen, whereby when you hit vulnerable or immobilized enemies, you can summon a further lightning bolt that hits for even more damage. Earlier on in the skill tree, you also want to get 3 out of 3 in Clarity, so you can gain even more spirit when you're shape-shifting back and forth from human form to werewolf form and back. This happens naturally when you use abilities like Blood Howl, Rabies, and then you go back to Lightning Storm. You'll want to get all of these passives to 3 out of 3 eventually, but remember, don't prioritize these over unlocking new skills when leveling. I'm actually going to recommend 3 offensive aspects for this build. All of them you can get early on in the game. The first one is going to be Aspect of Inner Calm, whereby you deal 5% more damage for each second you stand still, up to 30%, and you're going to be standing still a lot when casting Lightning Storm, so this is just a free damage bonus. Aspect of the Expectant you actually get from the dungeon Underroot in Tul Dulra, so you can do this straight after you unlock that stronghold for the Druid questline. It makes your Lightning Storm stronger after you use your basic attack, which you'll be doing naturally, so again, free damage. And then finally, you want Night Howler's Aspect from the Forbidden City in the Fractured Peaks, which increases critical strike chance by a further 5% when you use Blood Howl. Remember, if you put any of these aspects onto a two-handed weapon or amulet, they're going to have 100% or 50% increase bonus respectively, and I highly recommend doing that on Aspect of the Inner Calm so you can get to that 30% damage bonus sooner. For defensive aspects, there's one you can get super early on in the game, and that's Aspect of the Protector from the Lost Archives in the Fractured Peaks, which grants a barrier when you damage an elite for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. So there you have it, my Stormwolf build that will have you to level 50 in no time, tearing through enemies with huge crits and massive healing so you never die. If you enjoyed what I talked about today, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Diablo builds as we get deeper into the game. I'm Mr. Ronit, and that's it for today. Peace out, guys.